It has been said by Agatha Christie that the impossible could not have happened. Therefore, the impossible must be possible in spite of appearances. Agatha Christie. Huh. Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you. It is week number 6 at what here we call the schizophrenic synopsis, where me and James spend a few minutes and we talk about a pair of films and we got a unique angle that we look at and just have some fun. I mean, have some fun talking film, and hopefully you can have some fun listening in. And so here we are at week 6 already, and I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I'm having a blast with this, and it's a lot of fun. And this week, we're looking at a pair of giallos, one from Argento and one from, of course, the great Lucio Fulci. Perhaps I'm starting to think, man, I know many say Duckling is his masterpiece, but man, I'm telling you, my heart is really sinking deep in with this film. So I'm going to be looking at The Psychic here from 1977 by Fulci. It's just a few years after, 2 years actually, after Deep Red, and that is the other one James will be looking at. But looking at it, considering giallo, and within the group here, whether it's the 22 shots or whatever we're talking here, Derek, of course, I'm a bit of an amateur, right? I mean, instead of giving you just some straight out definition, not that they do, of course, they're great at talking giallos and talking Italian cinema. Of course, Italian month, I think, is quickly coming up on, actually, at the time you're seeing this, we might have already passed it, so you'll have to forgive me for that. In fact, don't mind rats over here, but I just got done talking a little bit about some Matai. Now I got to switch gears and go into some Fulci. But love Italian month on the 22 shots. Anyhow, where's so giallo? So thinking about giallo and thinking about what does giallo mean for me? I mean, it's mystery, of course. It's a well-written piece, delving into some really deep subtext, some really deep things, and at the same time presenting us with not just a mystery, but opportunities to spend the entire film guessing along the way who perhaps is guilty of the crime committed or multiple crimes committed. And what makes perhaps giallo even better for me is this mystery that's slightly clothed in a bit of supernatural, which The Psychic just happens to be. Just a touch, just a tad, deals with some really, really interesting themes. Now, I don't know if this is really about which is better here. I think in terms of, James will bring us his own thoughts and feelings of Deep Red, and it is a classic. I cannot disagree with that. But The Psychic maybe perhaps does not get talked about quite as much. And it deals with some really deep things. I mean, this is of course, the new Scorpion releasing of The Psychic, which just recently came out. And amongst the extras, it's just a few, but one of the great ones here is an incredible interview with Dardano Sarchetti. And he goes at great length just talking about his relationship with Fulci, the writing process, the origins of this film, from novel to pen, ultimately to screen, and it was not an easy process. And of course made more difficult as Sarchetti comes into the fold. He's not accepted by Fulci at all. He, in fact, just got done working with Argento, and bad relationship there, a lot of fighting. But Fulci just really, throughout this initial process of working with him, thinks nothing more of him than he's a spy, and that anything that is being done here with this film is being reported back to Argento. It's kind of a weird thing, but what's happening is through all the, fighting between Sarchetti and Fulci, they will, unbeknownst to them at the moment, build one of the great professional relationships that maybe has ever, dare I say, come out of Italy. And in fact, if it's not for the psychic, if it's not for Sarchetti and his work with Fulci through that process, very tough process, and in the end, creating something extremely great, I think, we may never have ever gotten the Gates of Hell trilogy. And so a lot is to be owed to this film. Now, this film deals with, at its very core, the issue of fate, which Fulci comes in from one side believing that you cannot escape your fate. It is your destiny. And if fate grips onto you, that's it. There's nothing you can do about it. And then Sarchetti disagreed as a writer and said, no, let me prove it to you. Let me write this for you, and I will prove that one can escape from their fate. And so, it's put to test, and when the next day lands in Fulci's hands and he reads it and he can't believe it, Sarchetti's done it. And so that really is the beginning of a great collaborative effort between the two that will go for years. And unfortunately, their friendship would not be solidified until a few months just short of Fulci's death, which is really sad and tragic that those two could not. But perhaps had they been friends, we might have not have gotten what we got from them. There was something unique and special that came out of that very tumultuous relationship in which one was always trying to step up above the other when they disagreed. But Sarchetti in this interview has nothing but praise after praise after praise for Fulci and what that relationship now means to him looking back. And you deal with this focus of fate, and you clothe it with a bit of supernaturalism, and you deal with not only the past but the present but the future. And of course, Jennifer O'Neill's character in her having visions that had been with her ever since she was a little girl, and had a vision of her mother plunging off a cliff, which we see at the beginning, move quickly forward, and she's married in a relationship, and very quickly we're introduced to a set of visions that she will have. And in the course of those visions starting to unfold before her, it is the mystery, and it is, or it involves not only the past, but her present, and perhaps a future that's undetermined, or perhaps very determined. It really does decide in which side you're on, Fulci or Sarchetti. And at the end of this film, it's left for our interpretation. One could easily take one step to the right or one step to the left and say, it is this, or it is this. And so it's left for that, and sometimes that really bothers people, but I think in this case, considering that you have a director and you have a writer who see fate differently, it could not have ended more appropriately. I have my own personal thoughts on the issue. I think there's a bit of, or maybe more than a bit of free will. I think man does have the capability of throwing a monkey wrench into fate's designs from time to time, but really it just, I guess then that begs the question, well, if one aspect of fate was thrown off, did not the other aspect, was that really fate? I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this, but it is an intriguing film. It is a masterful film from beginning to end, and Sarchetti will say that as a film, it is the best film, and it's the best film that came from him and Fulci, and it is a complete film, and has a great beginning and has a great ending, and it just consistently flows through, but it has a touch of just a bit of supernaturalism to it. And so at the heart of this Giallo, it is amazing that the characters that are presented, each and every one that is offered up as a potential suspect, could in fact really be the culprit. And it isn't until the final frames of the film that we are given a guarantee in terms of who in fact the villain is. And it is the last frame of the movie. In fact, I am so falling in love with this movie. I revisited it last night, I think, or the night before. And when that final, even after 5-6 times, the closing moments of the film, I savor it. It is one of the great endings, I think, in film history, and there are a few we can think of, and I think Fulci would replicate it again in The Beyond. That would be, great closing moments to that film. But Sergetti and Fulci, The Psychic, 1977, Giallo, I think, at its best. And James may argue slightly and give us a great look into Dario Argento's Deep Red, which is a great film in its own merit. But there just is, I don't know. You go back where Fulci looks back at Agatha Christie and roots himself in her. Of course, we know Argento leans into Alfred Hitchcock. And there's two. I mean, one's an incredible visual, in terms of what they display on screen visually. The other looks to just go deep and deeper into the underlining messages of his film. And not that there isn't on the other side with Argento. It's just they're both great. But I think I'm falling in love with Lucio Fulci. And the more I discover pre-Gates of Hell, the more I am just falling in love, with his work as a director. And of course, much of his success is owed to Dardano Sarchetti, of course the work of Fabio Frizzi, and his special effects maestro. It is, it's great. It's a great thing. So week number 6, a bit of Giallo talk from two of the absolute greats, I think, in terms of Fulci and Argento. And I look forward to hearing what James has to say on the others. So, week 6, Schizophrenic, synopsis. Thank you for just listening in, and I'm hoping between me and James we can cause you to perhaps go back and revisit these films in a slightly different light. So, as always, we end these things off with Go Freaking Bills!